Latest is Dhurandhar, where we have seen you play Carnatic music and take it to the stage.
Shashwat Bhai was like, you do whatever you want. And Aditya Ji was also, let him do whatever he wants. This was a thing where I had so much freedom. That was fixed. But after that,
The age of 16, you getting an All India radio grade.
Veena was something that happened by accident. Mom, when she was playing Veena, I found out a mistake in her playing when I was 9. She took me to her guru, under whom I learned for 3 years. Bhagwan's teaching, I've read Nisargadatta Maharaj, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. I love Eckhart Tolle. As they say, Purva Janma Sukritam. I think I believe in that. When I was, 15 or so, I was playing Kamboji. I started shivering. It felt like I was possessed. There is less or no me, and there's just music. I was playing Sahana, and I started crying at my own playing, like listening to myself.
Do you have death fear?
Yes.
आप में से 52% लोग PMC हिंदी देखते तो हैं, लेकिन अभी तक आपने सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया है. सब्सक्राइब करना बहुत आसान है, बस एक बटन है. आपके लिए फ्री है, लेकिन हमें बहुत बहुत सपोर्ट मिलती है ताकि हर हफ्ते हम ऐसे वीडियोस आप तक पहुंचा पाए. हाय रमना.
Hi, Akka.
So your name, Ramana, I want to know the story behind it.
My father, when he was in IIT Madras, he used to have this study circle where they used to read the works of our great saints and a lot of the scriptural works, all that, as a group on every Thursday. And then he came across a book of Ramana Maharshi, and then he deeply resonated with that, visited Ramana Ashram in Tiruvannamalai, and ever since, he's been a devotee of Ramana Maharshi. My mom also got introduced to Ramana Maharshi through learning his devotee songs when she was much younger. So because both of them loved Bhagavan, they thought I should be named after him. So.
Wonderful. So from a young age, you've been staying in Arunachalam?
Correct. So I've grown up there. I've spent a lot of time. I used to have no idea about the teachings or anything at the ages of like 3, 4 till like 9. I would just loiter around in the ashram, listen to the Veda Paranam. And but one thing that I used to get exposed to was a lot of spiritual discourses about the teachings of Vedanta and all that. I've listened to Nochur Venkataramanji a lot. So that exposure has been there since quite a young age. So, and I think I had the blessing of, being in the presence of Bhagavan's Samadhi. The shrine has become something so dear to us. And I feel that even today, if there's something boiling inside, or there's an inexplicable power, I feel, whenever I go there, and there's a sense of healing, there's a sense of freedom, and if it takes this much effort at home to still your mind, there it's only this much. So there's the power of so many other meditators and Bhagavan's presence, which kind of rubs off.
So music for you came at a very young age. So can you tell me about that? Because we know you as the artist, but the story of how it started.
So my entry into music was Mridangam. So I started learning Mridangam when I was 4. And I used to learn vocal at home from Amma. And Veena was something that happened by accident. So my mom, when she was playing Veena, I found out a mistake in her playing when I was 9. And then she thought, okay, maybe this guy has something for the Veena. She took me to her guru, under whom I learned for 3 years. And then I've been largely self-taught on the Veena. But my music guru is my appa. So that's my story in music. And I had not even the remotest idea that I would become a full-time musician and a performer. So, yeah.
So simultaneously, while you're exploring and developing your skill for music, the other side, you're exposed, your mind is essentially exposed, or you're absorbing all the wisdom through your belief system. You're developing your belief system. What's right, what's not. I feel from a young age, for example, my story. I studied in a Christian school, but I'm a Hindu Brahman. So I always had this question of the idea of God. And despite whatever my parents used to tell me, they were, how much ever they knew, their best. I always felt there's something more that I really need to explore. So was that for you? Did you always completely believe what was told to you, or?
I was the obedient kind of no questions asked kid for a long time, and I think I'm still in some ways that. But I mean, I've had this question and similar questions about, what is bhakti, um, what does it mean to be devout, or what does it mean to shed a tear just by looking at a deity, or just by listening to the name of a certain deity. So all that would be kind of intriguing, and almost at some point I've mentioned this in another interview as well, where it almost seemed um impossible for me to relate to that at all.
Mm.
And for me, I think since a very young age, there has been this strong belief in something beyond. Though I wouldn't be able to articulate it, not only because of people recounting mystical or occult stories. It's just that we are a very, very, very minute speck in something that is so much vaster and inexplicably expansive. That sense was there, I guess, from a very young age. And I mean, you could call that faith, you could call this as blind belief or whatever. But the attitude at home has always been, even in music, because when you start performing, you see some amount of success, fame, or whatever, and then it's very easy to kind of let that determine your peace inside. And I think it's very natural as humans to have those highs, and it's also a very good thing to kind of acknowledge it very calmly and then just take it in, and without really judging it and kind of suppressing it. But at the same time, even today my father tells me that, if keeps telling me that even if no one calls you for any concert for the next 10 years, you have nothing to worry about. You have your music to work on, you have food, you have shelter, you're not going to starve. So that kind of security is something that I have always wished to kind of be inculcated with, and that I think helps me stay grounded as much as possible. And we all have our moments where we take ourselves too seriously at some point unconsciously. But this aspect of God, I've honestly thought about too deeply, but I just like to leave it at faith. So that's I don't wish to question some things beyond a point. And when I've had moments where I've felt that there is really nothing in our control, and we don't even have control on what I'm saying now. I don't have about Libet's experiment, where they found that the neural pathway to the motor action is triggered before even we will think about it. So this is all just like waiting to be kind of unraveled, and our masters have already lived that truth. So in that sense, I've always kind of believed that we are just an instrument. But to really genuinely feel that is another thing, and that's where jnana is. I'm not there, obviously, but yeah.
So do you believe, like, at a young age, at the age of 4 starting Mridangam, that is one, and music quickly, or being able to reach a point, at which point at the age of 16 you getting an all India radio grade, which is unheard of in the history of, at least prapanchik scheme of things, of people have never given that before. And another side, you have this this understanding or the knowing that your parents bring. Do you feel there is a possibility, or do you believe in the fact that maybe you have a past life, or something that you have, some things, just the knowing, it's not told to you, you have not read it, but it happens. Have you had those moments?
Because you mentioned past life, I mean, as they say, purva janma sukritam or whatever, I think I believe in that, because this is not to sound arrogant or bombastic in any way, but I think everyone has some gifts which allow them to short circuit certain things. It might be some random field that they make very quick progress in, or they're able to see stuff way more prematurely than experts in that field or whatever. So you see these examples all the time. So I have felt sometimes when I teach, especially, that I didn't require anyone to tell me that, okay, you have to play it this way or whatever. For many things that many people find difficult, say on the Veena. So in that sense, I'm open to acknowledging the fact that maybe there's something, you know, before me that's already been prepped before I came here as Ramana. So I have felt that, okay, yeah, maybe we are kind of able to short circuit some things because of those gifts bestowed on us. So that I definitely acknowledge. And I've seen that the only thing that that's important is I've managed to kind of see that consistently in so many other people in so many other ways. And I hope that I stay in a position to be keep seeing that, because at any point, if you start to associate some kind of an exclusivity to ourselves, we're screwed, right? So like for instance, one of my friends, when we used to study math together, he would be able to take leaps which I would really struggle with. And that's when you realize, okay, yeah, people have come with a lot of homework done in their previous janma or janmas. So in that sense, yeah, I do believe that there are those moments. For instance, even things like, of course, you could demystify all this and come up with a very scientific, logical explanation to that. But sometimes, say, how do I say it? Like for instance, day before yesterday when I played in Hyderabad, see, in every kacheri, I would love to have these moments where there is less or no me and there's just music, right? And there's a sense of surrender, there's a sense of unpredictability, there's a sense of vulnerability constantly, right? Where I'm absolutely alive and open to anything that comes. I'm just like a receiver channeling things. So I ended up playing 2 songs on Yamuna on that day, and it just felt very, very, very organic and authentic at that point. I didn't even plan to play those songs. One of those songs I had roughly kept in mind, but I just played those. And then one of my good friends tells me that it was Yamuna Jayanti or something on that day. So I feel like these are kind of small things that you could easily call coincidences, but it's just that Bhagavan wants us to kind of feel reinforced that, okay, you are on the right track and there are some things for you, and be sincere in that journey. So that way I have, and I mean, sorry for rambling a little bit. There was one moment, because this is a very special and personal moment. Until even after like maybe 5 years of performing, or maybe 3 to 4 years of performing, music was still not something that I like viscerally loved. I used to be good at playing the Veena. I used to be good at giving concerts and all that. But it was not something that, made me shed a tear or two. But there was one moment when I was practicing at home and I was playing Sahana, and I started crying at my own playing, like listening to myself. And it's not like you're happy about what you're playing. It's more like Sahana kind of just overpowered and consumed me. So that was the first moment where I got to experience something impersonal. So I think these are moments which are quite special, which kind of say, you just know. To your question, if no one told me that, you have to be moved. I mean, the general perception is that lose yourself in
A
what you're
raga
doing.
essentially does have an emotion. It does denote an emotion.
Correct.
That's what's
And
said.
not only that, it can stir you profoundly inside and make you forget yourself, which is the best part.
Which is what is in theory, but you've experienced that.
Correct.
Wow.
And it just has to happen. It cannot be forced. Even when I teach, I can just keep, saying that be moved by the raga, allow it to move you, feel the emotions, but it just has to happen. There's no other way. So
I want to know, you keep saying, you've talked about being an instrument and you play an instrument. Yeah. The instrument itself, you play multiple instruments, and it is something physical, right? Vocal voice is something that you can tame and you can but you have something physical, you have to use your body. So there is a mind involved. So what is your relationship with your instrument? And when do you feel like, I don't want to play it, I want to sing? And then I've seen you in your concerts. You suddenly turn from playing a string and then you're going back to the voice and then go in, and you're just in your own enjoyment, just flowing through. So what happens?
See, I think the role of our minds is something that can be misunderstood sometimes, because I've done it myself. Because there's this tendency for people to sometimes end up judging the mind negatively and not acknowledge its essential roles. For instance, even intuition or spontaneity or let go, all these words that we use, right? Uh, those are sometimes very kind of incrementally achievable. So what I mean by that is, even intuition. Someone said that intuition is that you just have trained yourself to face 1,000 more situations, right? So, and that opens up something in your brain, and using your mind to systematize practice, using your mind to make sure that you stretch yourself in all possible ways, as many ways as possible, and then using your mind to think through, ideate, make sure that you cover as much ground as possible in practice. All that directly has an impact in what we perceive as intuition or feel or let go. So I have noticed in my own case, and this all masters have done it, it's nothing new, that take as simple as something like instrumental drills. As an instrumentalist, I have to do some drills very regularly, right?
Can you explain drills?
So these are very mechanical forms of practice, which may or may not sound pleasing, but you just have to do them like, stretches.
Like practicing,
Huh.
while you're practicing.
Correct. So it might be just playing sa re ga ma pa da ni sa ni da ba ma ga re za for like 10 minutes or 15 minutes, or playing one chitteswaram, one small composition for 1 hour, looping it. Basically, the theme is repetition. It's like japa, right? So there is some. I am not at that level. I'm just saying that there have been people tapasvis who have done this thing of repetition so much that it has kind of acquired that siddhi, and it's fruited so beautifully. So why I'm saying that is, that's a place where you don't use your mind, because if you're using your mind, you're screwed. Because the moment you start thinking about that, you'll start feeling tiredness, you'll start feeling pain. And one very dear artist friend of mine, someone whom I look up to, he was saying, for me, pain was always mental, and it took some time for me to understand that. So that's a place where using the mind is disadvantageous. But using the mind for ideating, let's say you want to improve your musicality in very specific ways, that can be a really amazing tool to have, even on stage. Though I'm talking about surrender, let go, just being in the flow state and all that, there are moments where, let's say you're coming up with an idea and then you want to build it, you want to build on it. There you use your mind, and it's very normal, and you don't have to be judgmental about it. So but God has given us this tool, beautiful tool, which is the mind, which can be used to create some interesting piece of art. So in that sense, I feel the relationship with the instrument grows more and more as you develop more muscle memory.
So maybe at the age of 9, when you started playing Veena particularly, to now, your relationship with your instrument.
It feels more effortless. That's all I can say. It's not about playing stuff more effortlessly. Expression becomes effortless. I think it's just like, when you write with a pen for 2 years and you switch your pen, you don't feel that effortlessness, right? So it's very similar to that. And for me, Veena, because I always used to have this dilemma, because you asked about singing. Singing, because it's directly connected to our body. It's the closest thing possible. Sometimes I used to feel that expression is more immediate.
Yeah.
Right?
You can emote more. It's very
Correct.
easy to change your
Correct.
way of singing so that you project.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, right?
Yeah,
Before
yeah.
words come in, you know what the
Correct.
feeling is.
Correct. So for that to translate to a similar or comparable amount on the Veena as an expression, that's what takes time. And I think people who have done that are very special musicians, where they have such mind to finger correlation. See, mind to finger coordination is one thing, but correlation is another. Coordination is when you want to do something, you're able to translate it to. That's purely muscle memory based. But to express your emotions directly onto an instrument, and when that is landing on the audience, that's a very special moment. And it has to first land on us. And that's what I look forward to having in every concert. The first step is to move myself. So if I'm not able to be viscerally stirred by what I'm playing, I'm pretty sure it's not going to stir anyone listening to it. So
You've talked about masters. So, who are the masters that maybe it could be the master itself or the books that you've read, the speeches that you've heard, be it for your thought process, your understanding of self, and also musically, who have really shaped you?
Uh, so actually, at different points of time, I've been inspired by different things. There have been moments where, see, I think Bhagavan's teachings have been extremely direct, very simple, but extremely pregnant with a lot of meaning. And sometimes it's easy for people to trivialize the teaching. Like, even self-inquiry. So I'm not qualified to talk about this because I've only read bits and pieces and connected a lot of the dots through listening to people, listening to my father and all that. So, but it's very easy to wrongly trivialize these teachings by saying, oh, Ramana Maharshi, oh, who am I? That's it. So that's like
Nanyar.
that's like the smallest part of his teachings, right? Though it was one core that he revolved around. There is so much of detailing, just like a science book. There's so much of detailing, contextual explanations, conditional explanations. There was no one universal rule that he applied to everyone. Each devotee's teachings were different. So, in that sense, Bhagavan's teaching, I've read a little bit of Nisargadatta Maharaj, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, and I love Eckhart Tolle. And one thing that he said just absolutely stuck to me. Two things. He would always say, because in fact he mentioned it for string instrumentalists. He was saying it's easy to, Bhagavan talks about this state of layam, which is manolayam, which is not the same as samadhi or any like deep spiritual state, but it's just a state where you are so one with what you're doing. It's just merged with that. That is not quiescence, or that's not, atma sakshatkaram. It's just one state of bhava which is so one with what you're doing. And Eckhart would say that don't lose yourself when you're doing something intensely. Always hold on to your existence as a person. That really stuck to me, because the hardest thing to do as a performer or even at home is to, when you're playing a piece of music, it's easy to get completely lost into that emotion, which is fine, but to also just step back and then like just feel yourself, see the big picture, see the context, see what's happening on the large scale, on the macro. That's a very hard thing to do, I feel. So that is something that has always stuck with me. And the other thing that he would say, that you are the awareness that is aware of your inner voice. And this kind of stuck to me. And Bhagavan, when he says, when someone asked him, didn't Tyagaraja Swami and Muthuswami Dikshitar and every the other great composers sing after they realized the truth, after they were enlightened? And he said, no, they sang what they realized. So, that these are some things that I just stuck to me. So,
Musicians?
I've always had a soft corner for people who have, in my assessment, which is, I guess, trivial in some sense, but people who have had this tapas, like M.S. Gopalakrishnan Mama in violin. Just these are people who, Shivaraman sir, Zakir ji, so many others. I can go on. In fact, I've made a portrait of like these 30 musicians that signify tapasya, and these are people who can do the most minimalist things and make you like just go floored. Like just holding a note is enough to put you in like a very grounded state. Those are musicians that have really moved me, like Balamali sir, and who else? I can go on. It's a long list.
I want the 30 list. Because that my other question that I have is which I see often in artists, right? So there is this, because you're a performer, you have
Yeah.
to face the crowd.
Yeah.
There's a bit of a people pleasing, or
Yeah.
maybe you don't feel it,
Yeah.
but you need to do it
Yes.
because
Yeah.
that's what it demands.
Correct.
So having this sense of self
Mm.
and the observation that you keep doing, from trying to detach yourself from
Yeah.
and being an observer,
Uh-huh.
where do you draw the line? And when maybe you have co-artists along with you who are necessarily maybe you look up to in some way, what is it that how are you working with the performer and the observer simultaneously?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because that's a place where I'm a huge work in progress. I guess we all are in some way, but more so for performance because the magnitude of um, decentering that's potentially possible is huge. Because um, we always discuss at home saying, see, when I'm playing on stage, finally we are show-offs. We have to be able to come to terms with that, because if you're not going to show off, might as well play at home, right? So you're there for a reason. You have a paying audience. You have a responsibility. You have to impress them. Might as well do it well. And how do you find yourself, and how do you stay present? How do you not go astray while doing this? By astray, I mean just allow things to affect the way you do music, the way you see yourself.
How much is it that what you're doing on stage is authentic versus what you need to be doing, or what your understanding of the self, that at that point I need to be like
Now,
this?
I would probably say like 95%. 95% authentic, 5% maybe I have to put on sometimes. See, those are, again, I'll go a little deeper into that, because, see, if I'm playing and some great musician steps in, or let's say a respected personality comes in, or let's say one of my peers come in, or maybe one of my students come in, if I feel the need to impress them extra, or if my thoughts start going in the direction of, okay, how do I impress them, or basically if I get overawed, that's an unspiritual moment for me on stage. If I'm able to just not give anything about their presence, but deeply acknowledge their presence, it's not to be disrespectful, but just be free of them mentally. That's a very spiritual thing, and it's quite hard to do sometimes. If you're with music, and if the music is allowed to consume you, it's very easy. And but there have been moments where you are kind of distracted by their presence in this way, where you're a little overawed.
Because you travel so much.
Correct.
And you meet so many different people.
Yeah. And let's say at some point, I'm starting to have thoughts about, say, the past or future on stage, which happens many times. Let's say you did something and went slightly south, and brooding on that, that's unspiritual, I feel. If you're able to completely snap out of that and move on, that's a very spiritual quality. See, this is where I think spirituality can be, in all these seemingly deceptively, mundane moments. There can be a lot of pregnant spirituality. Like,
What do you mean by pregnant spirituality?
because these are generally not seen as moments where spirituality is possible to be injected in. It's as simple as just not dwelling on what just happened, or as simple as being absolutely open to what comes, and being very confident and say, okay, I've done my part, and I'm absolutely open to what comes. And my father always used to tell me that you should just live for the next 15 minutes, because you don't have, first of all, you should just live not more than what's now. But when you have tendencies to kind of think about what's going to happen, it might be as simple as even say, we all have looping thoughts, right, in issues that kind of induce compulsive thoughts in us. Those are issues that we have a heavy investment in. Let's say I want to get married, and those thoughts are going to come repeatedly, like multiple times a day, and I know that I'm kind of invested unhealthily in it, rather than being open. I'm not now. I'm just giving you an example. So one form of unhealthy investment in my case is that sometimes I end up thinking, okay, I should get good ideas in the alap of Kamboji today. But that's completely irrelevant because I have absolutely no control over it. As long as I've practiced, there's absolutely nothing I can do about it. So to be very aware of these things, I feel, is a very spiritual thing, and this directly affects uh, the way music is perceived also. If I'm caught up in all these minor investments on stage, you will feel it. You will feel, okay, there's something off. The music is not.
But people are very, I think you master masking. That's what I feel. Because like you're saying that you're 95% authentic and 5% you have to be. You are also working, and because the energy of people around you, the co-artists, for example, it does affect you some way or the other. So is it that you're with each concert, other than the skill part of it, the being part? Because you are the doer and the and your being. So how do you balance that? Because essentially those thoughts do keep coming in.
There you just think of it as like it's like getting out the trash. So it's one of those mental things that you learn to do as uh, like a chore at home. So what I mean by that is, let's say the co-artist I'm playing with that day throws a tantrum, and this has happened to me. Maybe, or maybe the mic guy messes
Sound
up
is
something,
bad. That
or
that
maybe
happens.
I'm in a bad mood that day. But you won't know it because I've worked on kind of the stage dharma, which is to portray myself as a pleasant, very bright, um, focused musician. But I might be caught up in some kind of a mental rut that day, right? Let's so to there. So there recently there was one concert where there was some kind of a friction with the co-artist and me, and I couldn't obviously show it on stage because the people are going to be awkward. So I just decided I'm just going to focus on my music and I'm going to act as if nothing happened. And it was using a lot of my internal resources because I was really hard to do, because you have this tendency when you're hurt by someone, you don't want to not show it. It's an egoic tendency. I'm not justifying, I'm not proud of it. If let's say someone comes and disrespects me now, it's harder to not talk about it to you than talking about it to you, right?
That's
So,
the human part of us.
yeah, exactly. So at that point, I just have to say, okay, I have to portray myself as a pleasant guy, which I know is inauthentic. I'm not able to feel the emotions rawly, but it's okay. I have to do it. It's just like a dharma. That's it. That's how I look at it.
So the stage dharma supersedes your
Correct.
individual bias
Yeah.
of any kind.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have heard from Patri Satish Kumar sir and many senior artists that you're way beyond. I don't believe in the term of age because age is just a number, but I don't know, your words essentially really project what the state of your atma is, or the age of the atma, the number of years, and the deeper your sense of self is. It's where you come from, and I've experienced that when I practice music, and this thought, when you practice something, that the thought comes, where am I singing from? Where is it coming from? And what I've experienced is, through the years, the more you are zeroing yourself and coming from a place of nothingness. Yes, all of the practice is there at the back, but when you're, like you said, the stage dharma, where you're present, you just in the zero state. I've experienced my voice shift. I have experienced when I was singing a Kabir Chalisa, which is a composition, my chest became like the chest of a man. My voice texture changed. I'm like, there is no me there. And this has happened with Saint Tyagaraja, with Kabir, with Muthuswami Dikshitar. And I feel a lot of people, like musicians that I meet, they say my music is my meditation. Do you believe that?
No. In some ways, yes, but I've not figured it out because, see, I think this is an again highly talked about analogy, or like way of saying that music is bhakti, music is meditation, music is spirituality. but I think it's up to us to inject it into it, because nothing, even a mantra for that matter, it is, of course, I'm not denying the intrinsic power that these syllables or mantras have, but it's the person that injects presence into it. Like the beauty in Indian spirituality or Indian culture is that we can even make a tree divine. We can even make this cup divine, right? We can associate this with the devata and worship it, and that's a very beautiful thing. It's not superstitious. It's divinizing every single aspect of our life. And I feel I'm reminded of Muktananda Swamiji, who's from Ananda Ashram. I recently met him a few months back, and one thing that he told me just stuck to me. It's directly related to this. He would say, you always keep 3 touches in mind. One is the touch of dedication, touch of perfection, and touch of devotion. So he would say, he gave an example, I was in tears when I listened to it. It's like, you take your brush and you brush your teeth, and then before you keep it, you say, okay, the intelligence that created man and gave him the idea to create a toothbrush, I bow down to you, and say Hari Om, and then you keep the brush. So this spirituality has been so beautifully integrated into all these very, very mundane daily aspects in Indian spirituality. That's a very beautiful thing. But when it comes to music, I feel there can be it can be misconstrued to be as though intrinsically divine. I've seen some people assume that musicians are divine, music is divine. See, if you're truly saying that you're doing it for your Atma Tripti, do it at home. Why do you need an audience? Why are you upset when you don't see enough claps? If you're feeling all this and then you're saying Atma Tripti, there's a contradiction. If you're someone that doesn't give a crap about the audience, doesn't give a nothing, you're just there, you do your music, you've been asked to perform, you perform and you leave, then I'll side with you. But music as a meditation, I think I said I have not figured it out because I'm mostly in the bhava realm when I'm doing music at home. When I sing a ragam or when I play a ragam, I'm so moved by it, I can cry to it, I can forget myself. But it's not the spirituality that, say, a Bhagavan or a Nisargadatta Maharaj talked about. It's definitely a tool, no doubt. But the fact that you are independent of your mind-body complex is not, I think, so easily achievable through music for me right now. For me, I'm not saying it is not possible, but if that is possible, and if I'm able to truly feel my independence, that I'm beyond my body, I'm beyond my mind, I'm beyond all these emotions, I'm happiness itself, as Bhagavan says, your true nature is happiness. So if I'm able to feel all that through music, then I will say that music is my meditation. But in like a very secular sense, yeah, it is. See, like even something as mechanical as taking, say, one song and just playing it like one japam. I've done that sometimes. Just take one song and keep on playing it. And every time you play it, you ensure that you look at it very freshly. It doesn't become like a drab, imposition types. That is a very spiritual thing because you're going against yourself. Your tendency is to sometimes say, oh, what's there? You're just doing the same thing for the next 1 hour. But if you're able to find joy in that, that's meditation in some ways. So, and the point that you mentioned, which was spot on, is to have these agenda-less moments where you're just doing music, where there's no mental compulsion, and that's where true spontaneity also comes in. That's very rare.
Yeah. So, through the years, which in such a short span, you've performed at prestigious places, and typically what ends up happening when you get a lot of fame too fast, that's a lot of ahankara, because, and it shows in small actions. It need not always, you can mask maybe the words, but you can't mask action, and it ends up becoming visible. And you obviously meet people, so many people who do that. So and we essentially absorb, like you stay in Arunachalam, so the people, the vibration, all of that affects you. But when you're not always there, you may be there maybe 10 days a month or 5 days a month or 2 days a month. The rest of the time you're here. So how do you make that balance of I feel you have to, it's like the sansar mein nirvan. Like you're in the sansara, but you need to have those divinity, all the learnings, teachings. It's like a big weight, or a big, the way you take it, being able to face any situation the way it does. So what's your process?
One thing is, whenever someone praises me, and this is something that my father used to tell me, because as you're saying, my entry into the music field was quite early. I started performing when I was 12. So kids will not know how to handle praise most of the time. And it can put them into a state of complacency. I've been through that. So I know what it feels to be screwed by praise. So
What do you mean by that?
I'll finish this. I'll tell you. But the thing is, Appa used to always tell me that, and Amma also, that praise is poison. As simple as that. I know it's like an extreme stance, but at that age, it's fine. It's fine to have that. So thanks to my parents for shielding me from all that for the most part. But these days, when someone praises me, one thing is that I just immediately see like 20-25 things that I absolutely suck at. That comes to my mind. I was like, oh really? This like, okay, I understand that you're so moved by what I did. I respect you for that, and I thank you for that love. But beyond that, it doesn't do anything much. And a few things. Always kind of being exposed to people doing great work, deep work, without being known outside. That's quite inspiring. And if you compare yourself, if you figure out, people or friends with whom you can always compare yourself negatively, saying, okay, he's doing so much more work than me, or his work ethic is...
That typically does happen, because
Correct.
maybe you don't think you've done good enough, but there are people around you who have done much better.
Exactly.
So there's always a comparison.
Exactly. And it might be even in some other aspect. It need not be like, let's say I believe that I'm doing something as, the best in the field. Let's say I have that belief. That's fine. But there's always going to be someone else doing something else way better than you ever can, right? Things like that. Then always considering the possibility that what is given to you can be taken back any point. So, I mean, if I hurt my finger in a bad way, I'll have to stop playing Veena. Or if our body is so fragile, one small mess up in the neural pathways is enough to screw my career. So all this, I think, is very important to, how these, one particular line of Buddhism, I forget it, they talk about these very ridiculously vivid visualizations of two extremes. So what they do is they make the aspirant visualize something extremely positive. Let's say, in my case, let's say I see extreme success. I take classical music to like the biggest boundaries possible, get married, have a kid, settle in life, everything. And then imagine the exact opposite. No career, no money, not even like the food that I like, and no one respects me. People are talking behind my back. So they would say, visualize both very vividly to detach yourself from that. So I've used these tools to kind of, put myself, because now I'll come to the part where I said I've been screwed by praise at some point. There have been some phases where praise can kind of unconsciously make you complacent. Well, you won't even know it. And that's happened. And thanks to my father for getting me back into track. And either that'll come in the form of someone like a very critical person, might be a parent or a guru, or it might come as form of some humiliation, public humiliation. Like for instance, you play a concert which is so bad that it make you turn a new leaf, and you start practicing more. So I've had these experiences where I've not even realized that I was being suboptimal or complacent. So it required an external push to kind of, make me aware of that. And that, I feel, was largely because of the fact that I allowed that, sense of satisfaction, which is unhealthy, to kind of creep in. Being satisfied and loving ourselves is important, but if it turns into being satisfied too prematurely, like let's say I'm doing this much work to get something on stage, but I realize that even if I do this much work, I can still get a comparable result. That's enough to destroy you. So that small difference, that okay, not even 0.0001% of the people are going to know the difference. but I won't do that extra work because no one's going to do the difference. So that's where this starts to creep in. And that's because people anyway validate you. You're already famous. You've made a name for yourself. Now that's enough. So that's where I've been screwed by praise at times.
Okay, so I've seen in your music, it definitely it has pure Carnatic music, but your openness to other art forms, um, and you experimenting and exploring it all the time. So where does that come from? Because you your background has been of Carnatic music, but you don't shun away or say that no, I'm going to play pure Carnatic, or my concert is going to be the typical structure of how a concert should be. So what other musicians or rather which are the music forms that have really inspired you to create the music? Because latest is Dhurandhar, where we have seen you play Carnatic music and take it to the stage. So what are the kind of different musics that have helped you?
Everything, anything that moves me. So the good thing is I was brought up in an environment which was very almost fiercely open to anything that is moving and without really labeling anything. Even so, that is the exposure part. Then it's the mindset which is like, okay, even if I'm playing, say, Kambuji, and let's say there was one phrase which came on the spot, and it's not adhering to the typical Carnatic idiom. I'm okay with it. I will just play it because it moves me. So I don't really think too much about. See, there is obviously this responsibility as a Carnatic musician to represent its nuance as accurately as possible. I will not compromise on that. But there's a line which I don't mind kind of stretching now and then, because I just prioritize my own inner movement more. So that way I've been very inspired by Hindustani music, and I used to listen to a lot of ghazals, classical western. I've Bach used to be my favorite, and people like Jacob Collier, who have such a like a expansive view on music. For him, music is as simple as something that makes him happy. That's it. It's as someone said, organized noise, right? So he's okay with anything that just makes him feel something joyous inside. So it's almost like you put him in any sad situation, if he has music, he'll come out of it. So that those kind of presences are so important to be inspired by, I feel. See, finally, music is about feeling some kind of deep movement inside. If you make it too theoretical about, okay, am I being right? Am I being correct? Am I adhering to this gharana? Or am I adhering to this bani? Or am I representing this version of this song correctly? I don't really care about any of that beyond a point. As long as it's like when I play Tyagaraja Swami Kirti, I mean, this can be a little controversial, but I don't mind accepting it, because there's few schools of thought where when you learn a song, you represent it as you learn it from your guru. There's another school where you add your own embellishments and what do you bring to it as a musician. I don't mind doing something that's not been done, let's say by my guru or what I've listened to. Because if that allows me to connect with the song more, I'm okay with it. So that, I think, contributes to me being open to all genres. So though I'm a core Carnatic classical performer and I would like to remain one, I would not mind allowing other genres to have their influence in my concerts in measured ways. So, like if you listen to my concert yesterday, the Tanam that I played was not fully Carnatic. So I allowed a lot of guitar influences to come in, and Anantana had told me that you just explore, just go, you have a free hand. So I just took it, and I also really prioritize using both my voice and instrument as a sonic medium. How can I just produce sounds and just be moved by that? I don't have to sound Carnatic, Hindustani, whatever. Can I move myself with just sounds? Is something that I really like exploring also.
So in a concert, can you have there been moments through these years of whatever's written in the books that you've read, maybe what Ramana Maharshi said, or whichever books you've read, that you actually experienced that and you're like, oh my god, that's that moment. the feeling of maybe Nada Brahma or Shunyata, or the final thing at the age of 16, what Ramana Maharshi experienced of death, the fear of death, and he faced that fear. Has during a concert or in the music, have you experienced any such moment?
There have been some moments where I felt really small in a very good way, where you feel like nothing and you don't feel like taking credit for what you played, and you really feel that you have no role to play here. You're just like a simple cog in the wheel that he has designed to kind of put you there. So those moments have happened a few times, where there was one when I was, I think, 15 or so. I was playing Kamboji, and at some point I started shivering, and it was as though like something took over, and I was clearly, just like going with the flow, and that lasted for like 3 minutes. And even today, I don't know what the quality of Kamboji was technically and all, but that was one of the moments where it felt like I was possessed. It was a combination of the raga being so nice, the sound was reverberating, and one of those moments where you just like music has come to make a special cameo appearance in its like Vishwarupam, and you're just like, okay, yeah, I'm here to kind of facilitate your appearance. So that's happened. Then there have been moments where I wouldn't say Nirvana or something like that, but it's just like very special moments where there was one moment recently when I was playing Manasu Vishaya, which is a song of Tyagaraja Swami. And when I said Sri Tyagaraja, I just like broke down on stage, and I couldn't play also. I was just like somehow just gathered myself, like, just finish this piece. And it always happens when I do Namavali, like in bhajans. Sometimes I just involve the audience and do bhajans. Like many people do it. But those japam moments I really love. Where the tune doesn't matter, pitch doesn't matter. It's something beyond that matters. It's your presence, it's your surrender that matters. So, there's no personality involved, and yet it's so, and that's why it's so beautiful.
So how is your meditation like? So you've talked about music is not meditation, that you've may not be yet meditation. So how to stay as grounded and live the words that you're speaking? Do you meditate, and how's the process?
I do a few things now. I have to do more, I will confess. But whenever I go to the ashram, I meditate, and it's either started through some japam and then leads to just observing my breath, or observing myself as more as a witness, looking at my thoughts, not judging them, just allowing them to come, focusing on the gap of the thoughts, all these things. Also, another thing that I started doing was and this was again my father's suggestion, which I found very useful, is to very clearly recite out all the moments where I was bound in a day. So let's say, what's a good example? Any form of bondage. Any form of, like for instance, let's say, so I would do this and tell Bhagwan. I talk to Bhagwan a lot. And it's not to just complain or anything, never that. But so to tell him that, okay, today this person came, and mid-conversation I got too conscious and I was too inauthentic. And I projected myself as something that I'm not. So that will be a moment that I will kind of tell Bhagwan. And let's say I allowed compulsive thoughts to take over and then forget the work at hand and be distracted and spend time in something completely hypothetical. That will be another thing. So saying all this out loud mentally is done in an attempt to kind of free yourself from it and be more aware of it when it happens next. So this is another thing that I do. And then another thing is to perception-based mindfulness. That's another thing that I like to keep in mind as much as possible. When I'm talking to someone, there are so many images that we have about them, beliefs we have about myself in this context, so many of these thoughts. But to just feel my presence and then we are all essentially a modulation in consciousness types. Though I won't feel it genuinely, at least that faith that we are all interconnected, and then we're just trying to experience something as a collective. So that is something I try also. And um, what else? The small pockets of meditation is something I've been trying also. Again, these all, I think all this has a direct effect on the way even your body language changes after that. How graceful you are. I'm not saying every spiritual aspirant will have graceful, body language. We've had so many jnanis who have been chain smokers, have the weirdest of upadhi doshas and all that. So, but for us, like normal people, I think this is important to have. So, being very deliberate in actions. Bhagavan has mentioned this. I am talking a lot about Bhagavan because that's probably the most exposure I've had. If I'm picking this cup up, it's one thing to feel the perception as is, but to feel it and absolutely stop all judgment about that, right? So my father used to tell me that if he listens to someone singing not that well, he's a musician himself, so you'll obviously know when someone is not singing well. But he would tell me that if you listen to it as pure perception, that he would be able to really enjoy it, like almost fall in love with it.
Then not judging it.
Not judging it. And not judging is done at like a really seriously deep level where you just limit it to perception and everything becomes so beautiful. And I've noticed this even when we eat, not so great tasting food suddenly becomes so satisfying the moment you start feeling everything consciously. Byron Katie is another spiritual teacher I was exposed to, where she would talk about, whenever we have these questions about why me, why should this happen to me, she would say, are you sure this shouldn't happen to you? It's a very simple statement or question, but it suddenly brings in such distance between yourself and the actual event. And she is someone that has gone and talked to prisoners who have committed murders and then suicidal people and completely changed them into spiritual aspirants.
Just by this one statement.
Yeah. Are you sure that's what's happening? Are you sure that's true? And there was a funny incident I think you'll find interesting. So she had a breakthrough, and one experience which just made her feel oneness, much like Eckhart's experience. She was in the supermarket and one of her close friends who had just lost her husband came and told Byron that I lost my husband. But she was at this state where anything other than reality is now. Anything other than reality is just non-existent. And that level of not wrestling with what's happening, she said, oh, wonderful. So it's like a weird thing, right? When someone says that my husband is fuzzy, you're saying wonderful. But she writes about how whatever happened was what had to happen and there's no grappling with reality. So I just try to remember all this when I, go about in my daily life to stay grounded as much as possible.
So have you also visualized your death or
Yes.
your death fear?
Many
Do you
times.
have death fear?
I'm tempted to say no, but I know it's not the case. Because if I think about, let's say I have to go now, I'll say I'm ready. And all I want is one thing. I don't know how, I've again not thought about this too deeply, but I just want to be able to go where I can think of Arunachalam very clearly before I go. And then I'm happy. So in that sense, I would say I'm not scared about that. But I think it's one of those things where unless you actually face it, you really don't know what the true answer is. So yeah, I'll leave it at that.
So coming to the point of public, maybe coming more into the public eye, at least from an Indian diaspora perspective, is Dhurandhar. When such opportunities come to you, where common human at a general this level would be like, oh my god, this is the ultimate break that I get. I do want to understand the human part of you too, where you're just like, okay, this is going to be amazing. And a lot of people actually have this perception also that once you come into spirituality, you don't feel the emotions as much.
That's a myth. Yeah.
you've become much more numb.
Sterile. Yeah.
You become
Yeah.
numb.
Yeah.
You can't feel it.
Yeah. Yeah.
People don't. I've met a lot of musicians who don't want to come into spirituality and just are comfortable by saying my music is my meditation, because going too deep or finding yourself that deep might make you less. Might make you feel the need to perform less or be in the public eye less, which is totally unlike what you're doing. Having this kind of a deep understanding of the self, experiencing, believing, living it, and having the other side of you where you're in a Dhurandhar, where you finally see yourself on the big screen, your music reaching to that point. What does it feel like? And getting praises from multiple people. As we already discussed about praise, I'm not going to talk about that. But yeah, how does it feel like being in Dhurandhar?
Yeah. I mean, it feels really exciting to be part of. See, I was just telling my parents and a few friends that there's so many things that had to go right to get here, and none of them I had planned. So there's so much to be grateful for. See, first of all, I've been staying away from all film-related projects for a long while, because I just saw that as a distraction for me now. I just wanted to focus on my own core stuff. But this was a thing where I had so much freedom, right, which is very rare. So Shashwat Bhai was like, you do whatever you want. And Aditya Ji was also, let him do whatever he wants. You just give him khamaj and you anyway got the one refrain. After that, let him do whatever he wants. That's very rare.
So what is can you hum the phrase?
So that was fixed. But after that was just like you do whatever you want. Just do some fast stuff. I'll record you. There was no that. Usually, it's not nice when you're just given orchestral roles, right? You're asked to play like 5-second bits here. It's not very interesting as a musician. I like projects where I get to express something, learn something, exercise my musicality, right? So that way, this one, right? And then this being this kind of a film, which has one of these beautiful entries of a voice that's not been given as much space as it should have. That's a very interesting thing. In the sense that no one's talk about Pakistan and what happens in Pakistan unapologetically and honestly like this. Of course, there's cinematic exaggeration and all that, but with the Bollywood industry being largely, favorable to one side of things, this is a beautiful entry of that. It's kind of redefining, what India has been seeing. So in that sense, to be part of that kind of a movie is another nice thing. Then to be part of a blockbuster film like this, to be part of somewhere one of now my favorite actors and always, but
Ranveer Singh.
yeah, and I just think that he just did a phenomenal thing and just killed it here. I think this has changed the perception of him as an actor, and to do it with my all-time favorite Bollywood singer, which is Arijit Bhai. And to all this to happen, obviously it feels like super surreal. And the fact that the music ended up being something evocative and not just like some random bit in some song, it's part of a very poignant moment
in the film.
and it felt musically satisfying to record. That's a big deal for musicians, because if you're just someone that just wants to get done with like a role in like a film song, that's fine. But I like it when I end up producing something that moves me. That's like the biggest gift I can get. So that way, yeah, it really feels amazing. But my core is always Carnatic, and I kind of, as exciting as all this is, I would like to keep that my main thing. And so that kind of helps me just stay focused. And I have an ocean of work ahead in what I have to do. So I want to focus on that. So I will take this up whenever it comes and when it's interesting. And yeah.
Do you know what kind of fears stop you from being the highest version of what you are, which keeps cropping up? I feel when you have fears, and unless you deal with it, they keep coming up and cropping up in your day to day. It could be your music, it could be while maybe you're cooking or you're talking to someone or you meet someone. What you seek is seeking you. It could be individually, but it also can be your fears. If you have a fear that is stopping you, that's going to keep coming up. Have you um, become much more aware about what kind of fears you have?
I think as we evolve in our inner journey, we see more of these unwholesome mental movements which impede flow and which impede our sense of joy. And one metric to use to see whether we have progressed spiritually is to just ask us, how consistently am I feeling truly happy? In that sense, yeah, I'm probably able to be more aware of those fears. It can be, let's take an example. See, I have this thing of, I have caught myself many times in the maybe last few years trying to sound profound, right? So, I mean, you could justify it as a very human thing. So, but it took like a lot of like very
Wow.
unpleasant introspection to even realize that, like,
So real.
why the hell am I trying to sound profound when I'm not being able to come to terms with what I am really?
So real.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So at some point I just, okay, you just, if you don't know something, you don't know something, that's it. See, some of these very ultra mundane statements suddenly start to make so much sense, like, give your 100%. Everyone says that and we all have listened to, and it's beaten to death. But suddenly at some moment you're like, okay, dude, I'm actually doing just like 97%. I can definitely figure out like 3% that I'm not giving. And it's another matter that at some point we can never do 100%. That's a different matter, but relatively. So these are some examples of things that I've like, another thing that I noticed was so I've always seen myself as someone that doesn't care too much about my physical appearance. So I just care about combing my hair to some like reasonable extent, and I used to think of myself as someone just randomly selecting clothes from my cupboard and wearing them. And then there was this phase where I started selecting my clothes more interestingly, and I started buying clothes and thinking about what colors might choose. But I was not ready to update the image I have about myself, which is okay. I was like that. And it took my father to kind of point this out to me, because now, okay, I have changed. I care a little more about my appearance. Saying that is better than saying, I'm the same, right? So things like this. And then the tendency to uh, see, the other problem is when we are performers, I told you, right? Everywhere we are the focus. You go to a random household, you become the focus suddenly. So it's up to us to shift the focus. So that's something I consciously try wherever I go. Even if I'm hosted by someone, the least I can do is to say, okay, what can I do for you? Or can I give you a hand with something? Speak about their life, speak about their
It's not
career.
about you. And essentially
Yeah.
that does happen in art, where it
Yeah.
becomes a lot about the artist, and then
Correct.
you like hearing your voice, like
Yeah.
being your thoughts, your voice,
Correct.
your words, your music,
Yeah.
my brought up,
Correct.
what challenges I went through,
Correct.
how did I achieve perfection. I think that's so beautifully.
And paradoxically, when you shift focus, it feels so satisfying. And one other very inspiring person that has influenced my ideas on things is Nipun Mehta. Nipun uncle is someone that pioneered Giftivism, where there's no transaction of money, it's just gifts. So the whole community works in that principle. And he's the one that also started Karma Kitchen, where you go eat, you don't pay anything. If you want, you can pay for the next person, and the next person won't know who paid for you.
Wow.
So someone would have paid for your food, but you don't know whom you're going to pay for, and that person also don't know. So he's a very, very deep meditator, extremely spiritual person that has integrated spirituality so beautifully into his life that if you meet him, you'll just feel like love is personified. So that kind of a person. So he's written about an incident where, how it's possible to act or function from a position of love, even when you're being unreasonably dealt with. So he talks about that requiring way more inner resources, and that's something I've not even close to mastering, because I can get angry if someone does something unreasonable to me. I will probably first give it back to them in some way.
I think that's a little bit about this generation. Or is it a generation thing, or is it a
No, it's a
person thing?
person to person
It's a
thing.
person to
It's
person
a
thing.
person to person thing. And he talks about one case where he's parked his car. Another person has parked his car, and then some neighbor, because he parked it like in their space or something, like hits it with a stone, and then the car breaks. Part of the car breaks, and then this person felt like taking that same stone and then going to the neighbor's house and like flicking at him. But he writes about how he read Nipun and Nipun uncle's teachings and his writings, and he felt the urge to act from love. So he did take that stone, if I'm not wrong. Maybe I'm slightly changing the story. And he goes up to that person and says, "Here's the stone that you use," or something like that. No. He goes and gifts that neighbor on Diwali or something, without even mentioning anything. And then that completely changed that neighbor, and he became so kind of remorseful, and then paid for the damage and everything. So he talk about how acting from love can do such profound things and profound transformations. So these things I'm very interested to hopefully practice more, but this requires a lot of inner resource. It's not easy. It's the easiest way out is to just like react.
It's very human.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it feels so expansive when you, like, even he would talk about simple acts of kindness throughout the day. Nipun uncle would say, as simple as just opening a door for someone and maybe smiling and acknowledging someone. These are all very simple things, but very consciously doing this, I think, really kind of makes us expand. So
This, I think, I believe everyone will agree that this is an explosive version of what you really are, and I think rather a deeper version of what you've expressed externally. And I'm very happy that the
I'm
sadhak
glad we
in
had
you,
this conversation. Yeah.
the sadhak in you, really
No, I
comes
don't
out.
think I can call myself a sadhak.
You're a seeker.
Yeah, maybe
That
in
helps.
some ways. But when I see people dedicating, so much time and effort in Tiruvannamalai, especially because we live in that place, there's so many people just doing their own deep inner work without anyone knowing about it, without talking about it. See, it's that easy when you're doing something for a long time, and it requires physical exertion. Like meditation is also physical in some way, right? Because you have to stay in a
You have to
place.
sit.
Yeah. So, and in music also, there's physical exertion, and it's that much easier to talk about yourself, which is going to just basically defeat the whole purpose. So
You can cancel it all out.
I know exactly. So,
Amazing. So we're so happy that you've come on PMC Hindi.
yes, my pleasure.
And we would love for you to express your music for meditation, for actually people who are meditating, and that energy, because the frequency or the energy with which your words come about, easily put, is the lower vibration, and the higher vibration would be simply, if I have a bad thought about so and so individual versus a great thought, that is low and high frequency. So all of your words, your expression of self, and the way you are looking at life, it's so deep, and that's where your music comes from. We would love that your music helps take other people into meditation. That's what our intention is also. We create more of such music meditation spaces, so that other than the music being a performing art, but your music, just, they don't even open their eyes, the people who are in the audience, and their eyes are shut, and throughout the 2 to 3 hours their eyes are shut, and they experience the music and go deeper. That's what we're working here in PMC, that the music, any artist, whoever comes, they're usually, they're just like, oh my god, how is that possible? They're used to one song and then a clap, and then another song and a clap. Till 3 hours there is no response from the audience.
We did one similar thing in Auroville recently.
Wonderful.
Where the audience was asked not to clap and everyone was just silent, no lights. It was very nice. It's a very different experience. I think everyone should experience it. Every performer should experience it, because sometimes we we unconsciously are addicted to that acknowledgement. And at this era of like social media, if I have an idea today, I can share it to like 10 friends and get validated. So, which is a very dangerous thing. I've fallen trap to it also in my own way. But you're right, very, very important.
Yeah, so I, at least for the past 16 years that I've been meditating, I've been part of, every time I sing, there is always an audience whose eyes are shut. And after they express their experience, it's amazing where all they've traveled or what all they've experienced and the depth of which. And I feel that's the final purpose of what I feel music has been for me. That yes, the other one part is, yes, the joy or the ananda that people get when the eyes are open and they're appreciating the art for the art part. But the other purpose I feel of music is to really go deeper and make other people go deeper with the vibration at which you're resonating. And looking forward for more such work. Just I think just being your being itself is enough for people to really go deeper. So before we end, just a song from your end, whatever you love. I thought Veena and you would be great, but okay, we'll go with just voice for now.
Kaho Ram Naam Hardam Aho Bhagya Mile Sukhdam Kaho Ram Naam Hardam Aho Bhagya Mile Sukhdam kaho Ram Raho vikaro se man dur सहज मिले श्री रघुवीर श्री रघुवीर श्री रघुवीर कहो राम नाम हरदम अहो भाग्य मिले सुखदाम कहो राम जिंदगी है माया सपना जो किसी का करता परवाह ना जुग जुग इसमें है भटकना चाहे जो तुम्हें इससे छूटना कहो राम नाम हरदम अहो भाग्य मिले सुखदाम कहो राम नाम
Thank you, Ramana.
Thank you, Akka. It's been wonderful.
Thank you for coming here and wishing every single concert, every single expression of yours, the masters, the work of the masters, you are taking it forward, living it. That's it. I think that's it, being a very good instrument with an instrument, but being a good instrument. The best instrument is our only duty, and the rest is taken care of.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Akka.
मैं अंदर से काफ़ी दुखी थी।
मेरे को अस्थमा का अटैक हुआ, बहुत जबरदस्त।
इतना डिप्रेशन में गई थी मैं यकीन नहीं कर पा रही थी मेरा बेटा एक्सपायर हो गया।
मुझे तो कभी कभी ऐसा लगता था कि मैं सुसाइड करूँ।
ध्यान से मेरे माइग्रेन ठीक हो रहे हैं।
मेडिटेशन लिया और 1 हफ्ते के अंदर मुझे नींद आनी शुरू हो गई।
ध्यान ने लाखों लोगों के जीवन को बदला है। मेडिटेशन आपकी लाइफ भी चेंज कर सकता है। ज्वाइन कीजिए PMC हिंदी का फ्री 14 डेज मेडिटेशन प्रोग्राम। लिंक आपको डिस्क्रिप्शन में मिल जाएगा।